Welcome to CMOs Without Borders.
I'm Joel Crampton. I help financial advisors, RIAs, and wealth managers replace scattered marketing with strategic systems that boost AUM and production volume.
I'm Mandy McPhee. I am a fractional chief marketing officer and work with founders who are doing too much and need someone to turn their scattered marketing into a system that actually drives results.
Hello. I'm really excited about today's episode because I get to interview my co-host, Joel Crampton, on his new book, Trailblazing Growth. An amazing feat to write a book. You know, I think in the last episode, we were joking around a little bit before we started taping, talking about, how Joel and I started in the endeavor of writing books. So very, very excited to talk to Joel about his endeavor in Trailblazing Growth. Joel wrote this book specifically for financial advisors and how they can grow their business, acting as a fractional CMO or chief marketing officer for several RIAs and financial advisory firms. Joel's got a ton of experience in this space, so I'm really excited to talk to you today, Joel.
I'm flattered, and it's so interesting to be on the other side of this as being a guest on my own podcast. It's just kind of like this bizarre mental moment I'm having. It's cool.
World.
It is fun. No, but that's the fun thing about having a podcast. You can do whatever you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want.
Well, it's my pleasure to be on your podcast, Mandy. Thank you for having me.
I'm still waiting for you to sing and dance for me on this podcast, Joel.
Oh my goodness. I was just talking with one of my new clients and jokingly said, "Hey, I'm the new marketing person. I'm going to come and do some TikTok videos. So just be prepared." And like this groan went over the room. And I was like, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to be that social media person who's always out there trying to get some video content. So I didn't say I wouldn't. I'm just saying that's not going to be my main focus.
Yeah. I know you're definitely not focused on tactics. So let's get right into it. Trailblazing Growth is a financial advisor's guide to leading clients on a journey of clarity, confidence, and trust. Joel, tell us why you decided to write this book and what problem you were seeing.
Well, I decided to write the book for a number of reasons, and I listed them out because I'm a big nerd. So I'll go through each of those, but not at the top of the list is book sales. I don't intend to make a ton of money. If that comes, fantastic. If Oprah wants me to be on her bestseller list and interview me, I don't know if she still does that anymore, but maybe that's showing my age. So maybe the New York Times bestseller list. Anyway, not on the top of my list to have a bestseller title behind my name, although that'd be super cool. And actually, when I offered my book for free on Amazon initially, it shot up to number one as the number one free ebook in the categories that I was focusing on. So I have a screenshot of that. So technically, I guess I could say I'm a number one Amazon bestseller, but that probably will not be in my marketing. So again, lots of reasons why I wrote the book. Maybe most primarily would be just to have an additional resource that I can share with potential clients. It's more than just a glorified business card. It's an opportunity for me to showcase my expertise and my thought process and help advisors understand journey those prospects are taking, because a lot of these founders and financial advisors are certainly not marketing people and maybe don't understand a lot of the psychology that goes behind all the different buying decisions or stages that a prospect goes through. So those are probably the top ones. I certainly use it as a differentiator between myself and my competition out there who maybe are only talking about marketing tactics. Mandy, you and I always lead from strategy and leadership first. The tactics and the different campaigns come later. Certainly will love it to be a lead generator for other prospective clients that I can bring on board. Maybe it leads to some speaking opportunities, whether I'm at a conference or podcast guests, media interviews. Again, book sales is way down the list. But another thing is kind of maybe to inspire or leave a legacy for my kids and show that this is something that they could do but it also is something tangible that they can, I certainly gave them a copy and autographed it and put a little note. And in the book, I dedicated the book to my kids. Again, lots and lots of reasons why I wrote my book, probably very similar to the reasons that you wrote your book, which we will be having a podcast episode on next week. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. But today is all about you. So you said a few things in there that I just want to touch on. The first one is you started the conversation around a financial advisor where you were jokingly saying that you would be giving them some great TikTok ads, but that's not your primary focus. And for good reason. You then led into you're doing strategy and not tactics. Talk a little bit more about why that's your differentiator as a marketer.
Well, I think tactics are pretty easy to come by as far as the list of things that you can do to grow your business. And even strategies themselves are easy to come by. I mean, you can go into ChatGPT or Gemini and ask it to give you lots of different strategies or tactics or campaigns that it thinks you should put in place. But from a fractional marketing leadership role, I determine for my firm clients, what I feel like is most appropriate, specific to their audience, to their segments, to their niches. So, I always leave with strategy first. So, like I said, the campaigns, the tactics are easy to come by. And certainly in the book, I do list out a few different things from a marketing perspective that an advisor can put in place throughout that client journey. And depending on where that prospective client is in their journey, there's different types of marketing pieces or outreach or messaging you should have in place so that it actually resonates more effectively with where that person is mentally, psychologically in that space, whether they're just kind of in the shopping mode or if they're in the decision mode, or if they're a client and they are starting to get into that referral or advocacy mode. So offering different tactics and tips along the way.
Yeah, there are a lot of, I've read Joel's book. There are a lot of great tips throughout the book that doesn't just apply to financial advisors, that could apply to any small to mid-sized business that's running its own practice. So
yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's, you and I probably do the same thing. Is we always tell our clients to find that niche that we feel they can make the most waves in and the most impact, and the messaging is aligned around a very specific niche or group or segment of your client base. And so when I was writing the book, it made sense for me to continue on with my niche focus of financial advisors. But yeah, to your point, Mandy, I think it is pertinent to any industry or any profession where you're talking with prospects, who are needing that high touch, high trust, long sales cycle. They go through a lot of the similar stages that I point out in the book. So I think it really applies to anybody in professional services. So that could be accountants or attorneys or real estate brokers. So not just financial advisors or insurance brokers or producers or people kind of in that financial services space.
Yeah. You talked about why you wrote this book. And one of the things you mentioned was to attract new business. So what you're doing essentially is you're doing exactly the advice that we're giving our clients today, is to do things to attract that business, to build awareness, to get that thought leadership out the door.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I forgot to put on my list was same with the niche focus. What's the analogy? Eat what you cook, or take your own medicine. So if I don't have experience in a particular marketing tactic or strategy, I'd feel a little bit disingenuous if I'm recommending that to somebody, especially if I'm the guide that walks them through that particular marketing tactic. So if I don't have the experience, then it's tough for me to recommend it because I don't understand the process. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to write the book, was so that if any person that I was helping, any financial advisor, wanted to write their own book, I really understood the process from beginning to end and all the struggles that come with it. So, and I know there's a lot of financial advisors out there that do have these books either already out there or kind of an idea or concept that they want to put in place because maybe they see some of their colleagues doing the same thing and having some good success with it. So again, just getting that experience, that getting your hands dirty, that tactical implementation of that particular strategy. And then now that I know the ins and outs, then I can understand what are some of the pieces that we can actually outsource. And so, because I did everything myself, I didn't use a publisher or ghostwriter perhaps to get everything written. I did everything myself. So there's a lot of different pieces that we can put in place that can help accelerate the process. But the whole thing, beginning to end, literally took me, I think, less than 45 days to where I came up with the concept and got the book written and got it published on Amazon, to actually had a physical copy in my hand that I could hand out to people. It's a quick process, but it does take lots and lots of hours, or it did take me lots and lots of hours, probably 100+ hours that I had to pump into it. So it wasn't just a matter of going into ChatGPT or Claude and say, hey, I want to write a book, and give it a topic. It'll spit out a very subpar manuscript, but it took a lot of massaging and a lot of back and forth, and very similar to the process that you would use with a human ghostwriter, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is, but is it like something like 80% or 90% of bestsellers are now written by ghostwriters and not the actual author themselves?
Yeah.
Probably very true for executives in the business world. I don't think most of them are writing their books. They're using a ghostwriter, but they're also sitting down with that ghostwriter, offering up their thoughts and their stories and the direction that they want to take their particular book, and using the skill set of that ghostwriter to actually write the book. And of course, there's editing and back and forth. So that's exactly the process that I went through using those AI tools.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because AI sometimes gets a bad rap when it comes to being a ghostwriter for you. Talk a little bit about your process and why AI 45 days is unprecedented to write a book.
Well, I mean, that's just the type of person I am, that I just, once I have something in my mind, it was just like, go, go, go. It was also during the holidays, which was a great time for me to write it because there wasn't a lot of client work going on or prospecting or anything like that. It was just time for me to sit down and work on my business versus in the business. Yeah, AI definitely gets a bad rap, especially when it comes to generative AI or kind of the soft skills that humans typically have worked in. I took a job from a ghostwriter, but I just didn't have the $10,000, $20,000 to pay to a publisher to utilize their services and ghostwriting and publication. So I'm certainly a DIY person, and I know I recommend to my clients that they not DIY their marketing. But if they don't have the budget to pay somebody like me to help them out, then by all means, try to go at it yourself. It's just going to take you a lot more time.
Yes.
And if you're not an expert, it's just going to extend that process. So it's up to the individual person whether they decide they want to use outside resources to help them accelerate the process, and they don't want to deal with the headache of writing a book or working with their marketing.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be a hypocrite and say, don't use an outside service provider, because I'm an outside service provider to clients.
Right. But, as solopreneurs and startup companies, for those types of companies, it's important to know where to spend your dollar. And spending your dollar on writing a book when you can do it yourself and use AI as your ghostwriter, as your editor, as using those tools is just cost effective at this point. You mentioned 10 to 20,000 for a ghostwriter. It's more like 40 to 50,000 when you get down to the end of it. It's crazy. It's expensive.
Yeah, it is, yeah, and it just has parallels to actually creating, like, working on websites. Like, you can create your own website for next to nothing, or you can pay a professional to do it, and minimum fees for writing or for building a website is $5,000 for a 5-page website.
Yes.
You can certainly create one on Wix for $50. Is it going to be the same quality? Probably not. And it's going to take you probably a lot longer to create it than it would So you've got some trade-off in times.
Yes, and it depends on what your goal is as well.
Mhm.
Your goal was to promote your business, create some thought leadership for yourself,
Mhm.
and it was not to be on the New York best sellers list. So, based on your goal, I think that you spent your money in the right way
Mhm.
to do that.
Yep, I think so too. Yep. Yeah, I think using AI just in general has a lot of stigmas around it or to bad feelings sometimes as we're all getting used to this new technology. And when I published my book, even my mom was thinking that I should have said Joel Crampton and AI or ChatGPT were the writers of the book. And I said, I understand where you're coming from, Mom. Thank you for being
Yes.
critical of my process. She's also a librarian, and so she's gone through lots and lots of books over her career. So I can certainly see where she's coming from. But I think I'm always open with the resources that I use. And I always tell people if they're not utilizing these new tools, they're just going to get left behind. So by me utilizing the tools that are out there, I think I was being smart as a business owner, like you were saying earlier, Mandy,
Yeah.
and take what's out there to accelerate the process and become more efficient and allow you to focus on only the things that you can do and not what AI can do. So offload those different tactics or strategies or things that you know these AI tools and agents can do for you and let you focus on only the human things that you can do.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about AI in all of our podcasts, but for our new listeners, what I will say is that AI is your partner, it is your co pilot, it does not replace you. It partners with you. It will never replace your humanity, the judgment that you bring, the emotion that you bring. AI can't do that. It can do your research. It can be your ghostwriter if you train it properly. And it can write in your voice. It just won't hold the same emotion that you hold and won't give the same insights that you can give as a human with the judgment that you have.
Well, absolutely. And we were getting ready to get into why I chose the title Trailblazing Growth. It came about because I love to go on adventures and just knowing that I'm out there trailblazing a path in this world by starting my own business. I've never owned my own business. No one in my family has really owned their own business. And so me being that trailblazer, I think just led a lot of insights into what this book could be about. And I also found a lot of parallels back to your original question in this episode of why I decided to write a book specifically for financial advisors is because they are their client's guide through the entire financial planning process. And I am the financial advisor's guide through their business development. And so there was just an immediate parallel that I noticed. We're both trying to grow. We're both generally on that trailblazing path where we have started our own businesses. A lot of the people that I help are independent financial advisors. So they're trying to create their own brand and sell their story and trailblaze a path of growth. So I thought that was a lot of parallels. And then I like to do a lot of hiking and those kinds of adventures. And so I came up with the story of how I hiked the Inca Trail in Peru to Machu Picchu over the course of 4 days and the porters that helped me go through that. I couldn't have done it without them. Same way with a financial advisor. Their clients can't get to that end goal. They can't get to retirement goal or whatever the financial goals is without having that guide in place. Same thing, those financial advisors can't get to their business goals without having a professional in place to help them grow their firm. So that's certainly where the marketing leadership comes in that you and I do.
Yeah.
Lots of reasons. So that all to say, ChatGPT cannot pull all that out of me. It couldn't ask me enough questions to get all those different nuances and details and see how things are all kind of crisscrossed and connected together. It took me sitting down and thinking, kind of conceptualizing what I wanted my book to be and giving some ideas and some prompts to ChatGPT and say, here's kind of the concept I'm thinking. And then it would go down one path and I say, no, that's completely wrong. So I'd take it down this path. And so that's kind of how the title came about.
Yeah. That's and I love the title and it makes complete sense for you as a person, having gotten to know you over the last 8 months or so.
Mhm.
And for financial advisors as they're helping, being that guide. I love that term, that guide for their clients. And you're that guide for financial advisors. Great analogy. So, you say prospects are already halfway down the trail before advisors ever meet them. That's what you say in the book.
Mm-hmm.
What do most firms misunderstand about that early, invisible part of the journey?
I think that's just the way the world is going. People have so many resources at their disposal, and now with AI search coming into effect with all the different summaries that AI, ChatGPT, Gemini can provide people looking for resources and information. They just type in one prompt and then boom, 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 they've got their answers. It's not gone are the days of Google where you get 200 million links that you have to scroll through page after page trying to find your answer. Those AI tools are going to give you something right off the bat. So people have all those resources available to them. And so they've already done, I think the statistic is 75% of their research on who they want to eventually interview for their guide or their financial planning or whatever it might be. So by the time they actually contact an advisor or a firm to help them out with their finances, they already have a good understanding of who they might want to work with. And so when they actually reach out to the firm, they've already kind of gone down that path already. They've done lots of research. They've gotten over the hurdles of actually taking an action step to move them from where they were in whatever capacity, if they were DIYing their finances themselves or if they're working with an advisor, but just understanding that there was a step that needed to be taken. And so that was kind of one major step they had to go through. And then they had to go down another step to just start doing some research and asking friends. And, I certainly outline all those stages in the book till they actually contact. That might be stage 5 or 6 of the 8 stages. So they've already gone down, 70-80% of the way. And so once they actually reach out, they're looking for they're still at different stages. They may not be ready to talk to a human. And so I think that's something that we look at from that client journey standpoint is when people actually contact you, where are they actually at in the process? Are they just looking for some additional information, some free downloads, some PDFs, some blog posts, or are they literally ready to make a decision? And a lot of people are, but some people just need a little bit more trust building to take place. And so just having that understanding of how people are coming to your website or engaging with your marketing materials are really key because you have to meet them where they're at and provide them and have enough resources for them so that they can take another action step and another action step, another action step. So they eventually get to the point where they choose you as their provider, their trusted guide for their financial picture.
Yeah, understanding that customer journey is so critical in any business, whether it's financial advisory services, fintech, or something else. If you don't understand that journey, you can't meet your client where they are. And that's critical. How do you meet them where they are? How do you market to them at the point in the journey that they're at as well? How do you speak to them at that point? Is critical in building a growth system for your company.
No, absolutely agree. Yeah, it's systematizing the entire process, looking at the journey from beginning to end, and again, having material resources available for that potential client, no matter where they're at, just so that you stay top of mind.
Yeah.
And so having, again, the systems or processes in place that allows you to stay top of mind throughout that entire journey, because a lot of times it's going to take 3, 6, 9, 12 months for somebody to make a decision to actually either hire you as their advisor or their service provider or whatever it might be. And these are big decisions that people are going through, especially when it comes to their finances. And especially if they're already working with somebody, trying to break that relationship and shift to somebody else is there's a big emotional component to that. But also if they're DIYing it themselves, so if they're DIYing their finances, if they're DIYing their marketing, if they're doing whatever themselves, just that emotional point where someone just kind of throws their arms in the air and says, okay, I'm done. I'm tired of this headache. I need somebody else to take this on. And that kind of emotional upheaval is another big step in that journey. And just understanding kind of the psychological and mental aspects that people go through is a lot of what I talk about in my book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point, right? Understanding the psychological and emotional point that your clients are in so that you can empathize with them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Empathy is tough. Certainly as men, we are not great at empathy. And in the financial advisor world, a lot of financial advisors are men. And so this certainly is not geared towards just men. But I think there's a lot of men out there that need help being more empathetic and understanding the psychological aspects that people are going through. I had the benefit of my dad being a psychologist. That's already ingrained in me, in my DNA. And so my mom being a librarian, it just made sense for me to write a book that has some psychology in it. So a lot of nuances in there,
Yeah.
but also me going down the path of marketing. And Mandy, I know you had a lot of the same courses I did in university and college. Is there's a lot of psychology that comes into marketing and the emotional aspects and the triggers and the different words you say and even the colors. The whole
Yes.
color theory around kind of the emotional triggers that show up in people when they're in that buying process are things that we
Yeah.
think about as marketers, but somebody outside of marketing would have no clue.
Yeah, I'm a psych major actually. I'm
Okay,
not a
see, there
business
you go.
major.
Yeah.
Yeah, so marries really nicely to marketing because
Hmm.
of all those reasons. The research we have to do, the understanding of the customer prospect, the understanding of their emotional state of mind and their behavioral characteristics. That's all psych.
Hmm.
That's why I
Yeah.
love it so much.
Yeah. Me too.
I do want to ask you about random acts of marketing.
Random
You
acts of
talk a
marketing.
lot
Okay.
about random acts of marketing, and it's a phrase that actually resonates really deeply with me. How do capable firms slowly drift into that pattern without realizing it?
I think everybody's looking for a quick hit, a quick win, something they can just easily take and put in place, especially when it comes to founders or financial advisors, these people that have started a business. They don't have the time that it takes or the understanding to put in these long-term marketing plans, and so they just try something out and they'll try it for a week or two and it doesn't work, and so they'll move on to the next thing. Marketing is a marathon, and we say that a lot on this show. It unfortunately it takes a long time for things to come to fruition and to get results. We can certainly find some quick wins along the way, and we can do some trials and A and B testing to see what's working, what's not, and eventually kind of look at those trends and get to the where we need to be. Yeah, I think those random acts of marketing just show up just throughout business. People are always trying new things and they don't have the patience because they're trying to build all these other things and have the other things, they're wearing all these different hats. And so they're like, well, if they feel like if they're just doing something, then it's better than doing nothing. And a lot of times that's not true. A lot of times that's just wasted money, wasted effort and resources and time. And sometimes it confuses the marketplace. So you're almost shooting yourself in the foot in that sense. So yeah, I think random acts of market, you have to be willing to try new things, but it has to be from a very strategic standpoint. You choose things that have worked in the past, maybe for some of your colleagues in the industry, other firms, but what works for them may not work for you. So trying new things is something that I do in my business. I don't always get it right. And when I recommend things to my clients, they're not home runs every time. Like I said, it's a marathon. We can use all kinds of analogies. There's lots of little base hits that eventually get us around the bases. Sometimes they're foul balls. Um, so random acts of marketing, I understand why people do it. And I've certainly been guilty of trying to find those quick wins just because you don't have the time to kind of put in place long-term campaigns. What are your thoughts, random acts of marketing?
Like I really think that I see a lot of founders who are doing things in silos and just picking up tactic after tactic after tactic without understanding whether the tactic is working, measuring it, and then quitting before it actually even gets started. Testing is one thing, and I totally agree with you, Joel. There has to be a strategic way to test and learn, taking just a small portion of your budget to test new things, to understand. But in the end, you shouldn't have random acts of marketing. What you should have is a marketing system that works holistically together with the tactics working in conjunction and in tandem with each other, measuring everything to a single goal. and a single KPI. And that single KPI is growth. How do you measure everything to growth? If it's not driving growth, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Very well said. And that's certainly what I focus on. And I think more marketers should have that mindset is everything they do needs to be tied to revenue or growth or some sort of upward momentum, because the executive team, these founders, these presidents, partners, principals, CEOs, they all want to grow their company. And if you as a marketer are not helping them grow their company, they're going to see you as an expense and not an investment.
That's right. That's exactly it. So, yeah, everything has to be tied to that growth. So, Joel, you talk about 8 stages in the client journey. Which one do firms underestimate the most, and what does that cost them later in their growth?
I think stage 3 of the 8, which is called evaluation, that'd probably be the point where I think marketing itself has the most potential to make impact. It's where that confidence really starts to build with prospects that you're a potential option for them, a source that they can look to solve their problems. And it's where trust starts to find its footing. So there's lots of different things you can do from a marketing perspective to build up that confidence and that trust. And I think that's where, you're starting to get people in that proverbial funnel, the top of the lead, and then you're starting to kind of nurture them through as they starting to, like, you have their contact information now because they've interacted with your firm in some capacity, whether it's downloading a PDF or signing up for a newsletter or getting on a phone call just as a quick discovery kind of fit check call, what a lot of advisors try to do, but at least you're now in their funnel. And so building those evaluation tactics and strategies and looking at that in a conversion standpoint, like how can we convert them to the next step and the next step? Conversion is not always about getting them to become a customer or a client. It's trying to get them to the next step and the next step. And once you have their attention and their information, then you can put them into your process, lead them down the journey that you would like them to go down. And so you have a little bit more control over the messaging. So that's really the place that I think specifically marketing can have the most impact.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about trust, because, we talk a lot about trust and how important trust is in financial services. At the evaluation stage, how are you building trust at that stage?
Well, you build trust through a lot of different ways. I mean, the tactics are endless. If your website looks terrible, people are automatically not going to trust you because they don't think you have the time or resources to create a great website. And it isn't that difficult to create a nice looking website. If they request information from your website, like a newsletter or a PDF, and they don't automatically get access to that, like either the link is broken or there's no follow-up email, then that trust starts to go down. If you as a brand are promising something, you're not delivering on it, the trust is immediately going to go down. Trust is really easily lost when it comes to, I think, financial services, because people have such an emotional tie to their money. They're already on the defensive. And so they're looking for any reason to disqualify you. And so I think one of the hardest things that companies have to tackle is your competition is not the next company or the next person, the next advisor down the road. Your competition is inactivity with that customer or client. It's much easier for that potential client to do nothing than it is to take this big step, get into, transferring all their assets and doing all the paperwork. Like, that's a humongous step, and it's much easier to just do nothing. And so what a lot of we put in place as marketers to keep guiding that person down the journey, keep engaging with them, keep converting them to the next step, stay top of mind so that you don't just drop off the face of the earth and people don't ghost you. Like, you're trying to keep them constantly engaged because there's so much noise in the marketplace, drawing people's attention a million different ways. And so if you're not actively trying to hold that person's attention through a very systematic approach, they're going to move on. And at the same time, another firm might swoop in with something appealing or attracting that person's attention, and they're going to move off and completely forget about you.
Right. Trust is easy to lose, but hard to earn.
Yep.
really hard to earn. So you really have to be nurturing that relationship throughout. Because you're right, like transferring all your investments and your money over to one person is not an easy feat. Yeah, that's great. So, one of the most interesting ideas in the book is that advisors walk the same emotional journey as their clients. And we've talked a little bit about emotional journey already. But where do you see advisors get stuck on their own growth path when it comes to walking that emotional journey?
Well, I think where they get stuck, certainly from a marketing perspective, is they've built this firm by themselves generally. They've done all the sales and marketing and business development that it's taken to get their firm to where it's at now. And they know that in order to scale, they need to change. And so they'll put in place, like an operations person, or they'll outsource the compliance or all these other functions. But because they've always done the sales and marketing themselves, they're talking to their clients and prospects all day long. They feel like they know what they should be doing from a marketing, sales, business development standpoint. And it really isn't until somebody comes in from the outside, like Mandy, you or I, and shows them what they're missing and either what they're doing wrong or maybe some of the things that they're doing right that we can improve upon. So certainly they've done a good enough job to build their business to a point where they can afford outside assistance from someone like us, marketing, or whether it's an outsourced compliance or operations or investment officers. They've done good enough and they're probably still growing. And so I think they think, well, I don't really need to do more marketing because I'm still growing. If they're relying on referrals only, those are going to start drying up because your centers of influence kind of run out of people that they know. And so then there's just more competition. Like the world is ever changing. So there's all kinds of new tactics and strategies that other advisory firms are putting in place. And so if you don't implement some of those things as well, you're going to start getting left behind and you're going to miss out on growth opportunities. So firm founders, like I said, they're really emotionally attached to the sales, marketing, business development function, that growth function, because that's been their lifeblood. They've struggled for those year, 2, 3 years building their firm. And I think a lot of times they feel like if they give that up, they're going to lose sight of what has made their firm what it has been, to this point. So the hard part is getting them to acknowledge that they're not the best person to wear that marketing hat anymore. Now they need to focus on the visionary things, the things that only they can do from their seat within the company, deciding on new service lines or adding on more employees or A activity, buying different books of businesses, having to scale up their business. And they can't continue to wear all those different hats.
Yeah, so true. We see a lot of founders who are doing everything. They're working 24/7 and doing everything. And that gets your business only so far. If you want to continue to grow, there are things that you have to let go at certain points to ensure that you are focused on things that, and you said it perfectly, things that only they can do as the visionary, as the leader of the organization. So it's important that when it comes to growth and accelerating your growth, that you do have someone looking at customers, looking at the journey, looking at how to accelerate that growth for them and with them.
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah.
We're sitting there preaching to the choir. So.
We are. That's the beauty of our own podcast is we do that.
Okay.
You anchor the entire framework around clarity, confidence, and trust. Why those three? And why do they have to happen in that order?
Clarity, confidence, and trust are 3 words that are used a lot. I think AI has really grabbed a hold of them. And so I start to see them everywhere. And there's a reason for that, because it's true. Like you have to be very clear on what you want, because if you're not clear on the end goals, then you're going to continuously, from a marketing perspective, just throw spaghetti at a wall, hoping something sticks. You're doing these random acts of marketing. You're just doing busy work. So if you're not clear on what success looks like, not only for yourself and your business, but for your clients and where they want, like what kind of goals do they want to achieve in the future. So clarity is number one. And then having the confidence that you've got a plan in place, you've got systems and processes that can help you achieve those clear goals, I think are paramount. Confidence takes a long time to get there. You have to do a lot of trial and error so that you're confident in your decisions. But you have to be also confident enough that you don't know everything. And so you're confident enough to have that humility and say, I'm great at what I do, but there's certain things that I can't do. So being confident enough to make that additional hire, or for clients to have confidence that the person that they're choosing is capable enough to get them to where they want to go. And that all leads to trust, which is they're trusting that the person or firm that they've chosen can get them to where they want to go. So they have a clear goal in mind. They've got the confidence in the person that they have the skill set, and they trust that that person has their best interest at heart. And from an advisory perspective, that term is a fiduciary. And so that's kind of how I operate as a marketing professional. Like, I am a fiduciary of marketing dollars. I want to make sure that they're spent as well as they can be. There's not wasted spend. Everything has a goal or a reason why we're doing the things that we're doing. We're trying to always maximize that ROI, that investment, because it's not our money that we're investing. It's the firm's money. But just having kind of, like I said, that fiduciary responsibility that, we wake up every day trying to figure out how we can make that person's dreams and goals come true. So I think to me, that's a logical process that I think holds true in a lot of different scenarios, whether you're, a client or prospect who's trying to find their financial advisor to get them to their financial future and dreams, whether it's a advisor who is looking for someone to help them out with their business, outsource some of the headache of, marketing, for instance, and even our own business. I'm looking for different things that I can do to help scale my business. And, I'm looking for people that I can bring on to my team. But it's tough because you want to make sure that that person, they're clear on what you're trying to grow. And that you've got confidence you can pass this stuff off to them, knowing that it's going to be done almost as well as that you can do it. And you trust that person isn't going to, screw you over and ruin your business and everything you've accomplished at this point. So lots of parallels throughout.
Yeah, you mentioned goals a lot. So whether it's a client goal or the financial advisor's goal, those goals need to align all the time. I think, when it comes to building confidence, ensuring that and reinforcing with your clients that you can help them reach their financial goals and the milestones that they have in life, help them get through those milestones with security is critical for financial advisors to make sure that they are building that confidence at all times and at all stages.
Absolutely.
If someone listening takes just one small step after this episode, what would create the most clarity or momentum right now for them?
Well, I think that's a great question, Mandy. One small thing that somebody can do just in their life in general is start with clarity. That first of those 3 words is just be clear on your life, your goals. What does success look like? And then just work backwards. Like, what is it going to take you to achieve those goals? I think begin with the end in mind. Identify what success looks like for you and your business or wherever you're at in your life, whether it's a health goal or personal goals or financial goals or whatever it might be. And just start with the goal. I'm very goal driven. One of my favorite books is from Brian Tracy. It's called Goals. So being very clear with what does success look like, and then just kind of working backwards. So taking a little bit of time, clear your mind, get out a legal pad, a paper, because I'm old school. That's what I do. If I ever feel like my brain is just full of spaghetti and I'm just kind of going in a million different places, that's usually when I just say, okay, I need I need to calm my breathing, like center myself, get clear on what I need to do. What's the most impactful things that I need to do to grow as an individual, grow as a business. And so I think that's one little thing that I would offer to most people is just try to maintain that clarity, and then everything else kind of works backwards from there.
And pick a measurable goal. I would add to that, Joel, is pick a measurable goal. I'm reading a book about it, the fact that you should be picking a goal that you feel is unattainable, that stretch goal that you really feel is unattainable. And including in that goal is an unattainable timeline to get there. Because by doing that, if you hit, 50% of that goal, you are so much farther ahead within the time frame that you've given it. So I totally agree. Picking the right goal and picking that measurable goal is so critical.
Yeah, there's lots of things around goal setting. I've done it my whole career. You can take the SMART goal approach, which is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-based, or those BHAGs, those big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yeah.
10x where you want to be in your life, not 2x. There's lots
Exactly.
of different things kind of all around that. Setting almost an unattainable goal where you're
Yes.
thinking, there's no way I can achieve that. Like if I say I want to retire with $1 million, or why do you say $1 million? Why not go for 5 million or 10 million? There's lots of things that you can do. And like you said, if you only hit 50% of that, fantastic. The OS system has the same thing, the entrepreneur operating system, where you try to set 3 or 4 or 5 quarterly goals or rocks. And if you get 80% of those done, your organization is going to be light years above where it would be if you hadn't set those goals.
Yeah. Amazing. Is there anything that we haven't talked about your book that you want to talk about?
No, it's available on Amazon in paperback, hardback. I have an
Is there
audiobook
an audio?
version coming.
Is there an audio?
No, not yet.
version?
I haven't recorded it yet. There's a Kindle version. If you contact me, I'll send you a free copy of the PDF. Again, I'm not trying to make money, so I give it away for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you want to connect with me and learn more about it, certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm just happy to be that resource for everybody who is looking for that clarity and confidence and trust in the marketing that they're trying to put in place for their business. So that's what I'll leave the audience with.
A huge fan of Trailblazing Growth. I read it front to back, and there is so much advice and insights that Joel provides that would be extremely useful for financial advisors or any founder looking to help grow their business.
Yeah. And Mandy, I'm so appreciative that we took this time to make this episode all about me. It's been humbling, but I think very fun to be on this side of it. So I'm looking forward to returning the favor in next episode when we can talk about your book, which is The Work That Holds You, Building Marketing Systems by Understanding the Patterns That Hold You Back. So
That's right.
Looking forward to it. And we're doing that next week, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Super excited about that. Amazing. Thanks, Joel.
You're welcome. Happy to be on.